Protocol having been established, we certainly give honor to God, the pastor of this church, Dr. Harshaw, and we give greetings to all who have gathered on this great day, memorializing the life, legacy, memory, and mandates of Madiba, President Nelson Mandela, our friend and our brother. In this sacred space, let us hear, Brother Lightner, as you have called us to this altar, a word from the sacred book, Matthew 23. It is from the woe chapters, but it is important in a moment like this, when so many speak of Mandela, that we say, woe. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites, you build tombs for the prophet and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Nelson Mandela would never call himself a prophet. That is for us to do. And one of the great cautions we must engage in when remembering the life and legacy of a prophetic figure whose voice has been hushed by death and whose works have been ended by mortality, we must be cautious not to mythologize them in a way that inhibits us from learning and continuing to live out the meaning of their lives. So let us remember Mandela. Let us remember Madiba in the complete dimensions of his life as he traveled the long road to freedom. Let us remember what he stood for, what he said. Let us remember that when he stood facing his prosecutor and knew that he was facing a kangaroo court, he did not flinch, but instead said, there comes a time in every nation that we must submit or fight, and we choose to fight. Let us remember that he was convicted for his convictions and earned his moral authority through crucifixion and suffering. That's why after he was out of prison, he didn't have to say much, because his very presence, his moral authority earned through crucifixion, filled up any room to which he entered. Let us remember that when presidents of this country and others stood against him, labeled him a terrorist and even a communist, like a tree planted by the water, surrounded by the strength of his people and the dream of freedom, he stood and refused to take one step back. Let us remember that even over against all of the vile and hatred thrown toward him, he said people were taught to hate, and thereby they could be taught to love. Let us remember when he gave his first speech after being released from prison, he did forgive the prisoners, and he did say that we would move forward, but he also said our struggle has reached a decisive moment. We call on our people to seize this moment so that the process towards democracy is rapid and uninterrupted. We have waited too long for our freedom, and we can no longer wait. Now is the time to intensify the struggle on all fronts. To relax our efforts now would be a mistake for generations to come, and they will not forgive us if we slow down now. Let us remember in his inaugural speech that he said, the moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come. The time to build is upon us. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all of our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. We enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall without any fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable rights to human dignity, a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world. And then he said, never, never, never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the skunk of the world. Let freedom reign. So in his memory, let us not merely go to the tomb of the prophet with platitudes and compliments. For this world has a strange way of loving dead prophets. This world, even the enemy of the prophets, when they are dead, come to their funerals and say how much they love them. Because dead prophets don't trouble you. So let us not allow them to bury all of Mandela. Let us say, I too am Mandela. And let us fight against anything that destroys our common humanity and divides us. We must not mythologize Nelson Mandela, but to truly honor his memory. Pitiful words of compliments to him while he is dead disgraces his memory. We must engage in imitation, which is the greatest form of flattery, if we are to dignify his memory. And so in his memory, let us stand for justice today. In his memory, let us continue this long road to freedom, and let us walk it as strong and courageous as he did. In his memory, let us dare challenge those who would try to compliment Mandela but then suppress the vote today. Let us stand against sexism. Let us stand against classism. Let us stand against homophobia. Let us say everybody cannot speak nice of Mandela, because to speak nice of him but then work against the things he stood for is the highest form of hypocrisy this world has ever seen. If we love Mandela, let us work for living wage. If we love Mandela, let us fight for immigration rights. If we love Mandela, let us fight for health care for all. If we love Mandela, let us say to those who are fighting America's first African-American president every day for nothing, stop it, stop it, stop it, and let us build a nation, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. And then if we do this, then we will not be guilty of merely loving the tomb of the prophet, but we will be guilty, instead, nobly guilty, of continuing the legacy of the prophet. And so when we come to Raleigh on the 23rd to fight for the extension of Medicaid, we will do it in the spirit of Mandela and Martin and Mega. When we call for a mass march on Raleigh, February the 8th of next year, we will do it in the spirit of Martin and Mandela and Mega. When one more time we reach out to the governor this week and say, come on, in the spirit of Mandela, let's sit down and have an accord and do right by the sick and the unemployment in this state, we will do it in the spirit of Mandela and Martin and Mega. God rest the soul of Nelson Mandela, and long live his legacy and life through our action today, both now and forever. Let us not be guilty of merely loving the tomb of the prophets. And as we stand, let us stand in that same courage that kept him in that prison cell out of the night that covers me. Black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutches of circumstance, I've not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain